GM, the life coach. Hi guys, it's GM, the life coach. I've got a special edition again today, another guys podcast. We might have another guest coming in later, but we'll see how that works out. I've got with me today, I've got Kadeem, who is a very, very talented young man. He's very inspirational, inspires me, inspires lots of other young people. So listen, Kadeem, introduce yourself, man.
Hey. My name's Kadeem Dunning. A little bit about myself. I'm a drama therapist. My bag and whole purpose, I think, is to kind of give back in life and support those who struggle with mental health and struggle with anger. I myself, when I was young, had a massive anger issue. Didn't know anybody with an anger issue was bigger than mine. So that's kind of what inspired me to become a therapist in behavior and as a behavior specialist. And I specialize in drama therapy. And that's what I've been doing. I work in prisons, young offenders institutes, in schools, colleges, and wherever. And I deliver what I would like to class as, and a lot of our audience participants will tell me that I put on a pretty memorable workshop as well on pretty much any subject.
Mhm.
So that's my thing. The whole point, I guess, my special bag is being able to deliver something to you without ever needing to write something down. So, because I understand the importance or the difficulty for
Mhm.
some people in kind of communication. So that's it. Yeah, man, a little bit. I love a bit of sport as well.
Mhm.
I got 20 years of Tai Chi Kung Fu experience, which is my little, I guess, my party piece. And yeah, happy to have a conversation
Mhm.
today. Yeah, happy to get into this, man.
Yeah, wicked,
Definitely.
man. Yeah, man. That martial arts thing, boy. Whee, that's what really got me, when I see this.
Yeah,
Whee.
yeah, yeah. You
And
see
this
me?
guy
Yeah.
is just like, he's built like a truck. Yeah, he's built like a truck.
Yeah, man. So yeah, it's all about a
So,
bit of calisthenics
yeah.
training as well, man. Yeah, I mean, I can the training, like I say,
Mhm.
I'm very much so into talking to having the health conversation, and I can share some tips with
Mhm.
you if that's something you're interested in. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, oh, definitely. We definitely a whole podcast on that, trust me. Um, all right, so let's talk about mental health because
Yeah.
we had a podcast that we did with the other guys last week, which hasn't been uploaded yet, but at the time when people are watching this, it will already be uploaded. Um, but yeah, we spoke about mental health. We spoke about a few different things, and talk to me about your own mental health. Have you ever had? You said to me you've already had anger issues. Did you ever have mental health things that you know now to be mental health when you were younger?
Yeah, definitely. Like through kind of exposure as you get older, you kind of get a chance to reflect. I think that's the biggest thing you really kind of realize as you get older. Yeah, definitely. Looking back, especially now in like the digital age that we are, where we've got so much captured media that's able to kind of reflect and you can see back on things. Now that you're able to watch back on things, you can really see, oh yeah, that was maybe not right, you know. That was maybe not cool. That's maybe not. And when you have
Mm,
that reflection to your own history, so I think yeah, 100%. Um, like from even places to go, role models to talk to, the those things. Like I say, what is mental health and how you manage it is interesting because what is considered as good mental health or what is considered as just standard mental health to get through day to day. Like I think there's a difference between the two, and being able to. I think
mm,
it was only later on in life that I realized that for a large proportion of time I was just getting by day to day, as opposed to kind of thriving
mm,
in mental health. And it's not then until like you say you become kind of if you start to explore your boundaries, your barriers, and kind of become comfortable with being uncomfortable that you start to realize what that maybe where you're lacking. And I think that comes with time. When
mm,
when I was younger, I grew up around the grime era and what people will class as the great '06 to what '09 era of grime. Yeah.
mm,
And times
mm,
are very
yeah.
different. Times were different. It was a different time. It's not all that different now, but yeah, 100%. The time that it was attractive to be mad. Yeah, it was not. It was about being militant.
Mm,
It was about being serious. Yeah, and how I grew up and where I came from, that was very much so the case, and that was kind of what was needed for survival. So
mm,
that at them times was cool mental health. To be the craziest person, to
mm,
be the angriest person, was cool. So that's what I'm saying. It depends on the time and space. It depends on your background, your environment, your location, and your understanding. Because in them days, or because based on your environment, having what would be classed as good mental health is being mad, is being bad, because that's what would keep
Mm,
you safe. And that's an interesting contrast
mm,
to our understanding, or maybe the a global populace understanding or definition of mental health. Because, like I say, if you grow up
mm,
in the favelas, yeah, or if you grow up and you have cartels around you, your perspective of what you need to do day to day to survive is going to be very different. So that is it's as I got older and I was more, I guess, person experience by giving myself an opportunity to just be more engaged with other human beings that you start to
mm,
understand mental health is something that's almost a specific definition that is unique to everyone based on their personal upbringing and
mm,
what they had to do to survive. If I, like, I tried to take myself as I got older out of an area where it was so accepted to be so crazy. And that was for the
yeah.
benefit of my family as well. So do you see that that's one of the things I think it's about the environment. If you're in, you can take yourself out, but if that's only if you're lucky, fortunate enough to do this, we have to remember we don't choose where we're born and we don't choose to be born. So a lot of the time you're just dealing with what you're dealing
Mm,
with. You're dealing with the cards that you're
mm,
dealt. So that's where you really do have to really think about or not be too critical to judge mental health in a negative aspect or as if to put it in a category that somebody is doing well or not well, especially if you don't really know their kind of socio-economic background, because all of that will play a factor as well. Like the driving factor to someone, like I say, the a lot of the time the biggest and baddest people were the ones that would have made it, whether that be through the criminal lines or through the professional lines, because they had the drive to go and through. They knew how
mm,
to sell themselves. They weren't afraid in terms of that kind of, by also having the aspect of being the lunatic, the on edge, the off hinged one. That's also, there are some traits there that can be harnessed for really, really good use. The idea of somebody's public speaking skill is immense. Somebody who's angry, if we can harness that
mm,
anger to put that passion into communication, then yeah, that's massive. So again, like the right the right sort of skills can be harnessed. But as you see in certain environments, it's only those who are maybe hungry enough will do that. And sometimes what comes with that hunger may
mm,
also be seen as poor mental health. Like you say, those that don't care for themselves
yeah.
but are so business minded or business driven to make their business succeed that they're not eating, they're putting their money into their business. They're not focusing on their home, they're
Mm,
focusing on their investment growth. Do you see? They're not focusing on a relationship.
mm,
They're focusing on their financial development. So, these are the
mm,
things like what aspect of mental health? Because there are three aspects of health that we have to consider that in every lifestyle. Yeah, your work life, your family life, and your relationship. And quite often it's very unlikely you have all three happy in an equal balance. Normally, if your family and
yeah,
friends are
equal at
going
one
well
time. Yeah.
and your good relationship is going great, your job's not going well, or your job's going great at the result of the fact that you're not seeing your significant other as much, and your family and friends are annoyed. Yeah, and so all of those things, if we start to then think about it, the frustration that it might lead with mental health is, yeah, it is different. So I think as I grew up, I realized to start looking outside of the box with mental health. Stop taking people's definitions for it and start looking at what makes what defines it individually because it's so unique and we're all so unique.
Mm. So who, when you were growing up, who were the, if you were like down and stuff? First of all, let me ask you, who did you grow
Yeah.
up with? What was your family dynamic? What's your family like? Who were here at home with you?
Family dynamic, it was just mumsy, just me and mum, single parent household. From young, yeah, from early days, man. Mum held it down, very, very, very protective, but but did both roles very, very well, I would say. Wasn't very. Caribbean background, so 100% was not soft in terms of, despite the fact that there was a lacking a male in the household, very much know and knew how to raise a young man and and provide defense as well. So I wasn't, that was always well balanced. But in terms of that aspect of male role modeling, in terms of the aspect of healthy male role modeling that was there to present good mental health or a good example of how you manage your, that was learned from sports coaches, like
Mm-hmm.
athletics coaches back in the day, martial arts coaches, sifus, masters, senseis, and and those were typically the roles, because again, youth centers didn't exist. They weren't really there. Or
Mm.
if they were there, they were run by members of the community that weren't my community. So I wasn't looking to engage in that. And so, yeah, there was
So were you
definitely that
seeking out?
gap.
Were you seeking out these people? Then were you seeking out these people? Then,
Was I
or
seeking these
what was
people
it?
out? No, not really. In honesty, I was just keeping my head down, getting through education. I was keeping my head down, getting through education because
Okay.
I wanted to forge my own future. I knew that I was pretty unhappy early on with the scenario that I was in, so I wanted to provide better for myself. And one of the things that this country provides is an opportunity if you put some hard work in to provide better for yourself. So that's what I did, even at the
Mm.
detriment, like again, at the detriment perhaps to my mental health, because I didn't perhaps seek out as many leisure activities or as many friendship activities or relationship activities as I should have in the pursuit of,
Mm.
like you say, the academics to get through and move on and get into it and crack on, make that money, move out,
Mm.
do this, do that.
Mm.
But it was, again, like
Mm.
again, only as you succeed, like you say, money doesn't buy you happiness. In truth, like they say money can provide happiness, but it doesn't buy it, because it doesn't buy your time. Time is
Mm.
what provides you happiness because it gives you the opportunity for opportunity. If you have a
So
surplus of
was that
money
your
but no
MO then?
time,
Was that your MO
yeah,
then?
100.
Was that your MO then? Make money and that should make you happy. Was that how you thought?
Yeah, make money, and then I could provide that some happiness to myself and set up a scenario that I'm happy with. Because that's what the lacking was. That's what the lacking was. Everybody that was around me from growing up was always lacking that money. Money was shaping their scenario because there was a lack of it. So the scenario was being shaped by the upon them, as opposed to just like they weren't working to live or living. It was just work. They were just under it all the time. The scenario just constantly pressuring you. You can never have a control. Let's say there was never an idea of a holiday. Most people that around where I was growing up didn't go on holiday. They just stayed. They were there. They were on the same blocks, on the same roads, on the same. Like when the holidays come, summer holidays come. Most families, kids were there about. Then people weren't going away because it was a minute amount of people that were in the community that I was coming from. And I always, like I say, on TV and these films, you see like you see this, like you say, the white picket fence, the Pleasantville idea of, like, you see holiday, a nice home, all of these things. So yeah, that's what I thought. Oh, let's try and go for that, because this is not it. This is not, and that's no offense, but in the
Mm.
truth of it was, I by the time I was what, 15, I've been at the scene more than double figures of friends dead for stupidness,
Mm.
in honesty. And then
Mm-hmm.
by the time I'm 18, I've seen 50 or so that either criminalized for the remainder of their life or dead. So the span between that,
Mm.
like I said, that 16 to 18 year gap where the emotions, the testosterone, and like the freedom comes up when you
Mm.
become an adult. That was saying that them times were pivotal. Those were crazy times when I was growing up, and for where we were coming from.
So 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 let me frame this then. So you were living with your mum.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you were trying to make things better for you and your mum's situation. You wanted
Hmm.
to make money, so you felt that that would give you the happiness that you wanted, that you
Hmm.
needed at that time as well. And to your detriment, you just your social aspect, your social life, kind of took a dip because you were
Massively.
working, so
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
feverishly. Um, so let me ask you. So you said about the testosterone. You had all the other things going on, emotions and stuff. What was you didn't have any men? Oh, I don't want to assume, but there weren't many. Do you have any male role models around when you were young? other than the people, the adults that you went, that were around, the sports coaches and whatever. Um, what aspects of those sports coaches helped you become a man, should I say?
I think it was strength. So, like for instance, there's my first Muay Thai teacher. I did Thai boxing. I probably started when I was about 16, 17. And up until that point, I don't think I had anybody that I would particularly have wanted to have been. And my Thai boxing coach had asked me to hold a pad on our first session. I had only gone to that session by invitation through another one of my boys who used to have himself his own mental health, and that's kind of why he was going. And he thought it was a good place for me to go. He knew at them times both myself and himself were known for being quite hot wires, hot tempered. So why not try out Thai boxing? Put your money where your mouth is, you
Mm,
know? And
mm,
being introduced to somebody that had been in that environment day to day, who ran that kind of space of people who are willingly coming in to get kneed and elbowed in the face, is it was I think the first part, the first like awakening for me to say that, oh, actually, like there's a role there. This guy has got a tolerance for
mm,
all these people that have been written off or coming with mental health or coming with mad problems, a lot of
mm,
anger and ready to scrap. So yeah, that's that I would have said it was my definitely Muay Thai and Tai Chi coaches, Sifu. But big up respect to CC. He was probably that's my Tai Chi instructor and of 20 plus years.
mm,
And I would say he's probably the main role model that there's been, man. He's yeah,
mm,
for the consistency. Again, what makes a role model isn't necessarily somebody that looks like you, is like you. It's the consistency, or it's the person that introduces you to an aspect that you would have otherwise not thought of or thought was open to you. And so when I saw that somebody, there would maybe be a career path in speaking to or providing something for people who are disadvantaged in some way, that was, I thought, yeah, cool. Like I can do that. Like I've got that patience, I've got that tolerance for people that have got that want to come in and hit something,
mm,
whether that be psychologically or physically. Like, yeah, so I guess that's what kind of
mm,
those were my role model. That was kind of what, yeah, that was the role modeling, and then that's kind of what started to feed me into the career pathway that I was interested in terms of youth work, in terms of drama therapy, and
mm,
then also from a perspective
mm.
monetarily as well. That was what shaped it.
Excellent, wicked. So, before we go on,
Yeah,
guys, if you're liking what you're hearing, make sure you share, like, and subscribe and comment. I have to always put that in because I always tell myself, make sure you put that in, otherwise, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, we get it in there. Um, all right. So you had all this stuff going on. What area did you grow up in, by the way?
West
Not to
London.
stigmatize the area, but where did you grow up?
West London,
West
Northwest
London.
London, and West
Ah,
London. Grew up young in Northwest. We moved to West London.
mm.
So Harlesden, the
All right.
housing.
And okay, okay, okay. What was the change like from one area to the other? What was the difference?
Um, it was the same, man. It was the same. Same. It wasn't all that different those days. It was the same. Like, what was the I guess it wasn't until I got older that I noticed
But
the
let's
change, because obviously I go back and forth. And I think it was really about the atmosphere. Atmosphere was different. Atmosphere is different. The moving from northwest to west. So even though there's not that far, and there are people, I know people will say west is best from a London breakdown. Yeah, but
no,
it's
South
not.
is best.
Yeah,
Whatever.
yeah, yeah, whatever. Yeah. But or like people east and north will say it's not. It doesn't handle. Doesn't touch. It doesn't touch it. But in terms, there's no rough pockets. There are. That's like there's a rough pocket everywhere, and it's
Mm,
just like there's a safe pocket everywhere, depending on where you are. What I would say is that in West there are more streets that look aesthetically pleasing, that you would like to live on. That's the biggest issue, actually.
mm,
Yeah, let's come to that point. Let's come to that point. In those days, because now we're seeing a lot of gentrification to mask the areas by putting the luxury flats. But back in the day, you would see residential roads and council houses. And so in Northwest, you would
mm,
see more tower blocks and flat blocks than you would residential roads or detached homes. In West, there were more detached homes in and around resident council affairs and estates. And so on the face of it, aesthetically, it looks better. But that is just the
mm,
look. That's just the look. Like I said, I think it's all in a dire state. So that was the biggest that's the biggest shock, I think, that people would think that you move from one place to another and it's automatically better. No, it's the same. Unless you do something for
mm,
yourself
mm,
to make it better, it's the same. It's very likely to be the same. You're not
mm,
upgrading, you're just moving.
mm.
And yeah,
Just moving to the
that's really
side.
that's moving to the
Yeah.
side. Yeah, yeah. Again, you're not upgrading at all. It's the same car doing the same speed on the same route, just in a different lane.
So you had all this stuff going on. This is one of the things that I think forms a thing about identity, right? It forms our identity and makes up who we are. Before we step into, your what you do now, some of those aspects. How did you mold your identity? So you wanted to become a certain person. You've now become that certain person, but in between, how did you? What was the identity you wanted to kind of cultivate and put out there of yourself? And what identity did you know of yourself? Was it cultural, as in where you Caribbean or whatever, or what was it?
I'm Caribbean. Yeah, I'm Caribbean through and through. And um, I was born here, but very, very heavy roots. Mum is very much so Caribbean. Like I said, there's very little dilution there. And it's I think I'm an only child. I'm an only child. That's another thing. I'm an only child. So it wasn't just a case that it was single parent household. It was also that I'm an only child. So there was nobody to really back me. So I learned in my
Mm.
environment. I
I'm only child
wanted,
too, so that's the same thing. Yeah.
yeah, that's it. I wanted to survive. I wanted to survive. And that's what I'm saying. I'm not out here. I saw a lot of people that were doing making choices that not was stupid, but the outcome was not what I was on. Yeah. So
Mm, mm,
that made me understand that in order to be resilient to these things, whilst having to still navigate them, because you can't avoid, you just have to manage, I had to become a one man army in a sense. And so that was what
mm,
that was my focus and my aim. And especially, like I say, from me and a lot of close friends when I was younger, I used to have lots of conversations about what was the best martial art. A lot of my boys were martial arts fans. I grew up in the 90s, so Power Rangers, Ninja Turtles had a massive impact on me, and Mortal Kombat had a massive impact on mans. And so when we were in school, that's what we were having conversations about. What were the best martial arts? UFC was kicking off. It was
mm,
going on. Boxing was big. Mayweather was big. So like that's what I'm saying. So the conversation about what was the best combat, was it about if it came to, because our environments, again, it was very likely that you're going to be rushed by somebody for the color of your skin, or you're going to be mugged by somebody that's bigger than
mm,
you, or you're going to be mistaken identity for somebody because you're in the wrong area. And the list can go on. The list can go on. You got on the wrong bus at the
mm,
wrong time.
mm,
You drove the wrong car in the wrong area. You're on the wrong moped. Like I said, the list just goes on. There was
mm,
in them days there were endless reasons to get in trouble. It was so you just knew that you were gonna find it. It was coming to you. It was coming to you. It was coming to you. Everybody knew that. So that's where I was like, well, do you know what? I don't have like 16 brothers to call and all of these things like that. I don't have Big Dad there. I don't got all of these things. So I just have to handle this. I have to handle this not only for the benefit of myself,
mm,
but for the benefit and to be able to look after Mumsy. So that's what it is. I became a unit, man. That was my focus. I was very much I would keep to
mm,
myself and respectful, but you get your three warnings and then that's it. And that's the same even to this day. That still underpins my professional practice. I'm not there's very I don't blur the lines in that regard. Like I still bring my personal experience into the my professional experience because I'm not I cannot have that level of that disrespect, and I think that's still ingrained in me from how much I'm still kind of from like I say, maybe the trauma of having to survive in such a difficult environment, in such an environment where you having to
Mm,
bypass and navigate these things. So like, yeah, like
mm.
that's an interesting reflection.
While we're on this, what were your insecurities then? Did you have any insecurities when you were getting on? Obviously, you had the insecurity of
Yeah,
something
yeah,
happening to you, but
100%. No, no, no.
were there any internal insecurities?
Internal security is 100%. It was girls, man. It was girls. Girls were hard work. Like I said, I was not getting girls because why? I was not attractive. Why? Because I wasn't on the roads doing that madness. I was just looking to go to uni. I was just looking to study. I was just looking to get a job, keep my head down, and that wasn't attractive. I
Mm,
wasn't out. I wasn't out. I wasn't out shoplifting with a man. Them. I wasn't out blazing it up or drinking. I was just out yard with mumsy.
mm,
Like, that wasn't attractive. That's not cool. People won't see me on the weekends. I was just at home. And then when I got old enough, I was playing little video
mm,
games with a couple of the band them, so I would have seen the nerdy. But
mm.
then again, like, but then step to me, and then that was that. You couldn't touch me. You don't touch me. But yeah, I'd be like the nerdy defendant, the nerdy soldier that people would just be like, oh yeah, could he? Oh, he's
Yeah, you're
cool.
the nerdy
But
bodyguard.
yeah, yeah, but that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, but and I had really bad acne, actually. I had really bad acne when I was from like the age of 14 to 18. And so that made a big difference. 14 to 17, because I actually went to a dermatologist, had a full referral. I had really, really bad acne, bad skin. And I went through a course of, at the time, some leading trending skin treatment that was mad. Peeled off all the skin on my face, inside my
Mm,
mouth and my nose. But then boom, came back fresh. So my last year of college, my face was transformed. And that was when everybody was like, oh wow, who's this person? Da, 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 da. But I was still the same. And that was what I
mm,
think also didn't necessarily help. Those were where my insecurities were, because again, people didn't take the time to understand the person by their at that age, bar their face value, what they can superficially see. And
mm,
so, despite that, like I said,
mm,
and again, like I was trying my best to just keep my head, like again, like I said, I got a lot of martial arts background. It's always about diffusing a situation where possible. So I am not and
mm,
was not out here as boasty. I'm not loud in that regard. I'm not arrogant in that regard. I'm not looking for a fight. So I would not be, I guess, seen as an alpha in that regard, to people. I'm out here trying to keep on the sidelines with acne and just studying. So to like so again, like if there's a variety of girls that I like or people that I'm interested in approaching, they may not have any time for me at all, because on a face value, there's nothing attractive there based on the times. People were
mm,
interested in the person that had the freshest trims, biggest beard at the youngest age. Or the truth of the matter as well, people were looking older. People were looking hella older. People were looking older. Like, let's not go back to it. Even to this day, when I was in school and we were 14, 15, 16, there were guys from college, I guess from the age of like 17 to 21, 25, coming to pick up these girls, coming to pick up girls. And so what does
mm,
that say to us? We were like, oh yeah, yeah, we
mm,
got no chance. Got no chance, man. We got no chance. That guy's driving a 3 liter BMW. We're taking
mm,
the bike. We're taking our bikes home. Like like I say, this is the reality. It's just silly. Like, so yeah, those things. Like,
mm,
it's only as I get older that you start to think about. And like again, like I had a friend recently tell me, "Oh, you didn't remember all those guys that used to be lining up on girls? It's the nicest girls that we would always be like, oh, and everybody would be like, and then everybody's like, no, no,
mm,
nobody gets them." And because they're getting groomed, what we know now is groomed. And it's like, oh yeah, wow,
mm,
yeah, that's true.
mm,
That's mad. That's mad. It's mad. You see, and like I say, as times
mm,
go on, the language and the understanding has been there. But when we were younger, like I say, in them
mm,
times, oh 04, oh 05, oh 06, oh 09, all them ways there, grooming wasn't as a hot topic as it is now. People aren't so aware. It was just like,
mm.
oh yeah, cool. You could just say, oh, that's my cousin. My
It's not
cousin
as
coming to pick me
defined.
up and
Mm.
jump in. Yeah, and that's the problem. So yeah. Mad
Mm.
times. Mad times back
Yeah, 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 totally. So how did you? So you had this. You had the insecurities. You had your identities. You had all this
in
stuff, social wise, girls wise. When you were down, when you were feeling down, how did you pick yourself up? What did you do to pick yourself up? Would you just jump into your nerdy stuff, so to speak, or was it? What would you do?
the day. I always wrote. I always wrote. That was really something that I did. So, especially from the time, probably from about the age of 15, 16, I always like just journaled, I diaried. Again, it wasn't very, it might not have been very attractive them times, but that's what I did. I just wrote things down instead of punching, because I put my hands through many a wall. I've kicked many a lamppost, bust that up. Like I say,
Mm,
I've done them things. And I realized I'm not really about it. So I tried to engage in other methods. And so I started to write. I always wrote things down. And then through that over time, that I guess as well, music had always played a big part in kind of being able to like
mm, mm,
inspire and lift. Like I say, always draw reference to the fact for like one of the biggest like shaping things of my background was the grime era. The grime era was massive. That genre as an industry and the culture that came behind it really shaped like my adolescence. And that was like music was a kind of a tool to pick you up out of a difficult or a dark place. But again, music vibrates a frequency within you that then allows, I guess, the manifestation of certain things. And so, if the music is presenting a certain
mm.
negative energy, then that's what would be the case. And again, in those times, or as we see, as history repeats itself, or some people will say, we talk about drill, people will say that drill inspires people to be violent. You know, it's that. So like,
Mm,
it might not be the case, but no, definitely through listening to those sorts of things, you might be focusing on a more low or high or negative frequency than you should otherwise
yeah,
be. And so that was a
yeah,
challenge because okay, I'm using music as a method to improve my mental health or manage my mental health, bring myself out of that low state. But not until recently, like I said, or within the past decade, you realize that perhaps the music you're listening to is only putting you into another negative form of state as well. So that was it. That was it. So you can't be using something negative to get you out of a negative time. So yeah, that was. But I only
mm,
really, like I say, only really addressing that recently, and even looking at the contrast between like drill and grime, that and what I'm hearing all like the offshoots of like things like trap and dance hall, drill cross that I'm
mm,
hearing now as well.
mm,
And I was like, yeah, like they say all of
mm.
these things, what they're gonna say, everything is gonna relate to violence, or is it? But
So
then again, I don't
amalgamating.
know. But oh, amalgamating, isn't it? So yeah, it's an interesting talking point,
Mm,
but
mm, mm.
it's just something to be conscious of, I think, because again,
Yeah.
like for instance, let's go back. A big tune back in the day was D12's fight music. When D12's fight music came out,
Mm,
I even to this day, you put that tune on, and you will probably be feeling quite passionately aggressive afterwards. Another one that will go with you is Lethal Bizzle's "Pal." Yeah, like there are
yeah,
certain
yeah, yeah,
songs
yeah.
that are like come with an anthem of aggression. Like you go to every boxing gym, you're gonna hear that tune. You're gonna hear some gigs. You're
Mm,
gonna hear some gigs. You know.
mm.
So
Yeah,
these are
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
things.
yeah.
The way that we lift ourselves
But that's
up
what
out of
happens
them low
when you
states
have,
might be something else.
when, yeah. But I was, yeah, to add to your point, I was gonna say like, so when you're in situations like the ones where you were in, where you had constant, constant bad behavior happening around you, you've got nothing else but to produce music that is gonna reflect what you're going through, or
Exactly.
what's happening around you.
Exactly. Because nobody's
Yeah,
talking about the fancy road that they're living on because nobody's living on the fancy road. You know what I'm saying?
Mm,
Nobody's
mm,
household is
mm,
full of gold and silver, marble and platinum because that's not where people are growing up from. So that's not what people are talking about. And so that's not
mm,
what people are being inspired by.
mm,
And so you see, that's where the challenge was. It
mm,
was only it was only because I guess I was so curious, dangerously curious to get outside and explore. outside of my area because I was
Mm,
like, this can't be it. This war zone that is can't be it.
mm,
And in time through traveling, I
mm.
realized the war zones are capitals typically. Capitals are so populated, no matter where you go, a capital is so populated that it is so chaotic that you're actually, yeah, what is it bringing a quality of life that is beneficial to you and to your health and to your vibration?
Yeah, yeah, it's the kind of worms in it. You start in that boy, you
Yeah.
yeah, go forever. You know what I mean? So yeah. All right. So let's get on um to your work you do now. Yeah, we'll come back to
Yeah.
some of the aspects we spoke about previously, but the work you do now, you work with young people, and I've seen you do some amazing work. I've even seen you in your proper form. I've only seen you in your micro form because the kids that we work with are quite difficult to reach. But
Mhm.
in your your real form, when you spread your wings, what's it like? What feelings do you have when you're actually delivering your work?
I have over time really focused on the idea of communication, the idea that different tools can be used and the power of words to communicate, to resonate a certain message within somebody. So, like I said, back to journaling, I've taken my time to understand the English language and understand ways of communicating to people in a language that they will understand. So, through the times that people have been frustrated with English and then have cut off to a certain point, communicating with somebody past that point of their understanding is useless. So, it's really important to use a skill set where you can read and understand the level at which is best to engage with somebody. And so, that is what I would say is my harness skill set. I can communicate
Mm,
with anyone under any circumstance and that be beneficial to their understanding. Yeah. Um, Communication is key. And also because I'm from a background where we've like a lot of youth, I'm a youth worker. A lot of youth work has underpinned what I've worked, where I've worked, giving back to youth and talking to say angry
mm-hmm,
youth, like I say, recognizing that I was an angry young person and that I never really met anybody more angry than myself. So if I could calm myself down, I could help others. So that is it. And even to this day, despite having worked in prisons and young offenders in this country and abroad, I haven't met anybody that's been more scary or concerning than myself at that point. So this is it.
mm,
Communication is so key because if we go to a level when somebody's off their baseline of behavior or they're vexed, as we would know it, yeah, they
mm,
they
mm-hmm,
they there's very few words that you can say to somebody when they're when they're at that stage that's not going to consider and it just increase and inflame that situation. You don't want to hear certain words. There's a lot of language you don't want to hear. And like I say, so you've just got to think of it that way. Everybody has that potential to be at a point that something will trigger them. So that's what I've focused and kind of specialized my career in making sure that I can communicate for a purpose that sees behavior change, to instill a purposeful
mm,
change in that person's behavior. So that's really it. And I think over time, I sort of from an early stage, I understood the lack of, like I say, the lack of role models that were around to communicate how to do things. So through self-study, I had to learn how to
mm,
do things. And so that's where I see, like I say, the power of communication. So that's definitely my
mm.
primary tool and the
So it's
primary tool.
that's what you focus on. That's what you
Hmm.
focus on, the communication, and
Yeah, man.
also breaking down. Um, you do what I like about your work is you do similar to me, where you break down really complicated things and make them really easy to understand. And that's a really good skill to have.
Yeah. So this is exactly it. Like, so currently I am specializing in kind of financial capability, a term known as financial independence and retiring early. So I work with young people and
Mm,
anybody on the kind of subject of exactly that. And a lot of people don't understand their finances. A lot of people don't really understand, or they get frustrated, or
mm,
they don't understand their emotions that are connected to negative finances as well. So
mm,
I understand and channeled ways to kind of get people to understand and break that down and to start to engage with it. And like I said, back to it's very important the style of language that you use to work with somebody who is about to jump off of a bridge, yeah, or to
Mm,
work with somebody who is broken down at a
mm,
funeral. But if you've got that skill set, then it's
mm,
incredibly powerful. And if you can harness that to work with the right person or to do that, yeah, it's incredibly powerful. So that's what I specialize in. I specialize in, again, that communication to help aid people in understanding how to be their best versions of themselves, but specifically focusing on youth at the moment because that's the future, and they are maybe the biggest concerns because they've got the hardest future ahead of them. Like the landscape is not
mm.
great. So yeah, that's those are that's my focus, and that's kind of what drives me now. And it's a kind of a personal activity as well. I find it quite fun to engage with people that have been labeled as written off, you know, or they're too difficult, they're too challenging to
Mm,
be worked with. So that's why I specifically
mm,
focused on working with 16 males, because that's it, 16-year-olds plus who are male, who have got anger issues are my bag, who
mm,
don't feel understood,
mm,
who feel isolated, who didn't have a role model because they have a voice as well. And it's just a challenge
mm.
in terms of how you communicate to let them understand that voice because quite often they didn't, they have not been around to the right environment to learn how to communicate. Yeah, to learn how to communicate at all. Yeah.
So when you're working with young men, and we're going to focus on
Mhm.
young men. We'll go to the ladies in a minute, but in terms of young men, when you're trying to get them, you talking to them about how their emotions are, or how their anger issues and whatever. Um, what are their insecurities or the things that they're worried about most?
There's actually like a variety of things, and some of them make sense, some of them are rational, and some of them are irrational. So some of them are worried about like the future security of their homes and the likelihood of where they're going to be living. They're concerned about the fact that they're at the bottom of the pecking order in terms of any kind of emergency housing, or if there is any kind of housing relief, they're not going to be in receipt of it. So those are the most sensible or clued up ones that are thinking more forecasting more for the future,
Long term, long
long term.
term, yeah.
The short term guys, the things that they're anxious about, like I say, is just a lack of employment. That employment for 16 to 24-year-olds doesn't match up with the landscape that currently exists in the UK. Whether that be in Greater London, in London, up north, down south, it doesn't match up. It don't match up. Like they're saying, it doesn't matter where you go. These days, it's very likely to expect to pay over £1,000 in rent. Yeah. And then after a few bills,
Easy.
and
Mm,
after a little bit of living costs, you're near enough £2,000. Now, for young people to find a job role and a job that's paying £2,000, they're just not there. So young people are becoming increasingly aware of this and are losing the
mm,
drive to know how to do anything about this. And what can they do? Because it feels like it's a problem that they didn't create, and so they don't have an answer for because it's way outside of their hands. Again,
mm,
the majority of youth are not going to be starting with, again, they didn't choose to be born. They haven't chosen where they live. So they're coming from maybe a more difficult background than those that aren't. But the scale is
mm,
offset in the favor of disadvantage, unfortunately. And so I
mm,
think that has a massive impact on people's perception and young people's perception of kind of aspiration and what success looks like
yeah.
today and what drive is, because like I work with young people today and their drive, genuinely, I work with 20-year-olds and their drive is to get up at 11 in midday, have some brunch, and then smoke a fat J, and then just go on a bike ride, sit on social media, play some PlayStation, and then go out with their friends in the evening. Maybe they'll go out and get picked up on one of their friends who drives. And then that is their dream. They'll work minimal hours or they'll work something creative that gets them the highest amount of money and the least amount of input. And that is more than happy for
Mm-hmm.
them. That's more than happy. It's actually very
Yeah.
hard to find that young person who is thinking about their home for the future. Most people are not interested in getting a job, like a career. They're not interested in thinking about the next week. They're just happy for today because
Mm,
that is how
mm,
they manage the anxiety of not having the skill set that's required to succeed in the environment that they're in.
mm.
Like you say, think about what kind of
And that's a
opportunity
hard
do you
and
have?
that's
Yeah,
a hard pill, yeah.
what kind of opportunities do you have once you've got a criminal record? How can you be,
Hardly
and what are your
anything, yeah,
chances of
hardly anything.
moving into the top 10%? Yeah, it's very difficult. So,
Mm, mm,
for I say for it is young people have got a hard bag, and like we say, that's before we even start getting to adult. That's before we start
mm.
even getting into adult problems and start recognizing the issues for those who are older than us, our age, and a little bit below. So yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting.
Is it hard to get through to them though? Do you feel like it's hard? Like when you've got like a certain, you
Yeah,
can see that this child can do
yeah,
better,
yeah. I
but
can
they
see it
want
because there's no
do you find
incentive.
it difficult?
The incentive is now outside of my
Mm,
hands. The incentive is outside of my hands.
mm,
If a young person said they want to live in a 3 bedroom house
mm,
in an area where they don't hear sirens all the time, I can't guarantee that. Like, you can't guarantee that for them anymore. Even if they work as hard as maybe if they've already got a criminal record, if they're neurodivergent, like if they're an ethnic minority in some cases, but again, like it might not be that easy for them. They might not be able. They might already find
mm,
that they're outside of that quota, unfortunately. And so
mm,
young people
mm.
have an increasingly low self, especially men. How many young boys you
Mm.
talk to, and then every other word you
Self-esteem.
hear from them is, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Everything.
mm-hmm,
Where do you want to be in 5 years? I don't know. What interests you?
mm,
I don't know. What are you good at? I don't know. What's your ideal partner? I don't know.
mm,
Like they don't know anything. Like again, like
mm,
what is that? Is that a communication thing? Is that self-esteem thing? Who knows? But there's an issue. There's definitely an issue. And I think
mm,
that's part of it. They just,
mm.
again, is it apathy? I don't know what like it just doesn't seem to be a drive because they're very aware that the landscape for them is bleak outside of their control.
And also, they've also seen people who didn't do any academics and didn't really work very hard. Well, we call it not hard, and still have made money. So for
Exactly.
them, it's like they don't see the value of doing well sometimes, isn't it? It's like, do you know what I mean? Like you should just want to do well, you should just want to do
Exactly.
well
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
put yourself in a good, but the drive is, and that's the thing, isn't it? We've often spoke to the kids that we work with about drive. Do you know what I mean? And how to garner that drive, how to, where to find it. Do you know what I mean?
Remember, but as they say, if it all falls apart, they can just get a 16-year sentence. As they say, isn't it?
Oh my gosh,
I'll
conversations
be
we've had with these kids, man. I'm telling you.
in it. That's in it.
Oh man.
You see, and that's what like the
Uh,
majority of young people are like, yeah, that sounds good to me. Yeah, why not commit a crime, go to prison for a few years,
mm,
and you see, and they're happy to aspire
mm,
to that. That's fine for them, and that's what I mean. That's
yeah.
where there's a problem because if the landscape is so bleak that
But
prison is fine, what does that say?
well, their thing was that they don't have to pay rent, isn't it?
They don't have to pay
They
rent.
don't have to pay
They
rent.
can't. They
They
don't
don't
have to
have to
pay rent.
spend all
There are
the
less
money.
responsibilities. They don't have to worry about gas. They don't have to worry about meeting these bills. Yeah, and and I guess arguably, if they don't have the options like that, then yeah, how do you? Again, the challenge is being able to respond to these young people honestly, and I think that's where the barrier is. People don't want to have an honest
Yeah.
conversation, and the honest conversation is that it is bleak.
Mm,
And the sooner we start talking about how we
mm,
navigate through that, and I think that's what I'm very welcome to do and open to do. But yeah, a lot of people don't want to do that. A lot of
mm,
people aren't open to having the
yeah.
honest conversation and sticking with it until the point when it gets
Mm.
uncomfortable. And that's what needs to happen.
So so before we speak about the girls that you work with,
Mhm.
what a controversial question of it, obviously that happens a lot of the time is what about the parents? Should the parents do more within certain situations, or what do you think? What do you think?
Yes,
Some people obviously don't want to
yes,
blame the parents and stuff. What do you think?
yes, yes, yes. Quite often, quite often, the parents can do more. even if that's being a listening ear, that's where it's falling down. There's too much judgment,
Yeah.
or there's too much poor
Yeah.
parenting where they're trying to tell their kids what to be. We need to start recognizing that everybody is unique and individual. No one person is the same. Even twins,
Mm,
triplets, quadruplets are all individual. Yeah. So, like, despite that somebody
mm,
may look similar, everybody internally is different. And ultimately, everybody's
mm,
spirit is unique. So this is what I
mm,
think parents need to start understanding. Instead of trying to instill something that maybe their grandparents or their parents or their culture has told them to do, because that's where it's failing. Parents have given up because their kids don't follow the culture, as opposed to recognizing perhaps how culture has adapted and evolved. Like the
mm,
parents are
mm,
not very adaptable to listening to young people for the fear that perhaps that young person has something to teach them, because for so long, or maybe so many
mm,
generations, have been raised where you don't teach your parents anything, you just listen and you don't speak, you don't reply. Especially from a Caribbean
mm,
background, that's licks if you're going to talk back.
mm,
That was
mm.
always there. That's a very well known. Yeah,
And some
you don't
African
got nothing to
backgrounds as
say.
well.
That's
Mm,
it.
mm, mm, mm,
So again, so from that perspective, it comes. I think it is down to parenting, even to excuse me, even to when like a parent says enough is enough. And I think that's it.
mm,
Parents need to not recognize their resilience to when they've cut off from their kids. And it's not a case of because I
mm,
think that the failure as well, where they think, okay, like I got them to 18, my job is done. Maybe it is done from a
mm,
legal parental responsibility, but I think there's still a role for you to have a listening ear. And there's more to do as a parent than to just
mm,
instill a certain way. Like you say, maybe somebody isn't going to do something in a certain way because that certain way isn't for them, because that's not them. But if you
mm,
are open to navigating
mm,
and understanding that what makes that person unique, then and I think that's it. Again, the challenge is on parents. A lot of people are parents before they were ready to be parents, or they
mm,
didn't want to be parents, or their circumstances have meant that the
mm.
parenting is not as positive an experience for them as it once was.
Yeah.
So
It's not innate
that
to them.
also
Yeah.
makes it,
Mm,
yeah. So that also makes a challenge, because then you're maybe up against the fact that you don't got the time or the emotional resilience to then look at giving all of that time to your child when you want them to listen to what you're telling them.
yeah. And sometimes you just give in. Just give in to the easiest thing because you just want to just, you know, get stuff
Mhm,
done.
mhm.
Mm.
And so this is it. So,
So when you
yeah.
were, yeah. So when you were younger and you were having your anger management issues, how did your mum deal with your anger? Did you did you showcase it to your mum, or was it just like on the roads, or when you were frustrated in your room? How what was it like? That's just a
Um,
reflection point.
well, like my mum definitely, no, my mum definitely knew. The mum definitely knew, because obviously a lot of the time I'm just at home, so like we would get fractious, it would get fractious. I would like snap. Definitely through adolescence, I would definitely snap, and then that would be it. Like there would be that dynamic of then having to like reflect on that aspect. And again, like I've always been very respectful and raised to be very respectful as well. So that conflict, so I've always known differences between right and wrong. And so sometimes, like you say, navigating having your emotions control you to react in a way that ultimately you are not happy with from a philosophical standpoint is difficult.
Mm,
So that that I think is where I would like Mumsy knew that I had anger issues, but I didn't display it that much. Now, fortunately, my mum worked at my secondary school as well, so she was also there to see
mhm,
some of the times when it got active. And she yeah, like so. But again, I think it's a challenge because I don't know. I don't think people know how to. Again, back to communication. People don't know how to talk. I I don't really think
mm,
people like I don't really think my mum really knew how to talk to me about that subject, and I don't think people know how to talk to angry young men and angry adolescent men. They don't know what to say, so they kind of just leave it. Like saying
mm,
everybody knows that men don't want to
mm,
talk, or that their communication isn't there, or they're very angry, or they're likely to lash out. So if you start to do that, people are gonna start thinking, "Oh, I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't want this person to lash out," and then boom, you're gonna get a stigma and it's gonna be isolated. So I think
mm,
maybe in a way I did that as well. as well. I think my mum, her coping strategy was to just not really like explore them kind of things because she's seen me lash out so much time, like, so many times, or snap from maybe easily. So yeah, so that was maybe more masked and shown in elsewhere. Like maybe that's where, like I say, the outlet was in training, was in sports, was in martial arts, and in acting, and
mm,
in all my other ventures, because I had to put that into something.
mm, mm. Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. Um, so, and this is where you get the affinity with young people, which is amazing. Um, so when you worked with young ladies now, what are the similarities or the differences between the two sexes, working with young men and working with young ladies?
Young men haven't got a drive. Young ladies have got they've got a misconception about the world. Uh, They almost place such a, I don't know if it's social media or what, but they place such a high value on such a low skill set. It's a
Hmm.
little bit of a concern. Like again, they think they're gonna every female thinks they're gonna get maximum reward for minimum effort, it would seem, from the 16 to 24 age group at the moment. And young men
Hmm.
can't be asked.
Hmm.
That's the
Hmm.
dynamic. There's problems on both accords, on both sides of the spectrum. There's problems.
Hmm. Yeah. And is that for the cross board, those different ethnicities, everything,
Across the
or
everything, everything. I was in I was delivering a workshop this week to a group of travel and tourism students. And
mm,
within that workshop, whilst in that workshop, a hijabi student, I'm walking around and she's on the phone looking at half naked men on the phone and laughing and admiring the tattoos on this man who is just wearing. I'm not even going to get into that. And I look over and I'm in shock, and I'm like, and she's like, we're like, there's that awkward moment of laughter because, like, again, like you wouldn't think that would be what we'd be expecting, but I'm talking to you about your
mm,
financial capability, and she's just looking at man. And people would think, oh, she's got her job on. There's gonna be, but no, like I say, like it's the same. It doesn't matter backgrounds, cultures, everybody is the same. And then when I press this person about where they think they're going to be in their financial future, the whole point was that when they're like, well, they're attractive, so they're going to marry well. They're going to have a good career, and then when it's that time, they'll
it's
marry
gonna be
well.
that easy, innit?
And exactly that:
Easy.
minimum effort,
Mm,
maximum reward, and
mm, mm,
that is the problem. I think no matter what the culture is, what the ethnic background is still the same. They think it's going to be minimum effort,
mm,
maximum reward, and young men,
mm,
they don't care. I don't know. It's really weird. They don't seem to
mm,
care that they're in a car or in a train hurtling towards a brick wall, and they don't care. Like when I talk to them
mm,
about, okay, what are we doing after college? Are we like, have you got job
mm,
prospects? Are your parents are telling you that you're gonna? I
mm,
work with care leavers. Your care providers are telling you you're gonna need to leave home at 19. What are you doing? What's
mm,
the plan? And they're like, I don't know. I don't know. I ain't got your qualifications. I'm not going uni. I'm not going college. I ain't got no money. I don't know. Back to that whole, I don't know.
mm.
And what are you gonna do about that? What are you gonna do? Anything? Nah, I gotta leave. I gotta leave. The same thing when you see a young person
And
and
it's
they're facing
and it's the
eviction.
thing, and it's the thing.
Yeah,
You try and talk to them. Yeah, you try and talk to them about the turnaround from 16 to 19, and it's like so quick. The time goes so quick,
so
or even
quick. Yeah,
16 to 18, and
18. Yeah,
they're adamant they don't even know what they're gonna do. It's
what they're
mad.
gonna do? They don't, and they're not too fussed. Like yeah, they're not too fussed about it, despite the fact that we could tell
Mm,
them as much as all pose many scenarios or role play to them as many things. Ultimately, they don't care. They're not interested. They're not interested. It's just again,
mm,
I'm wasting their time. That's what I find. It's really interesting.
mm,
I'm wasting. You try to help a young person to improve themselves, and you're
mm,
wasting their time. And that is
their time. Mm-hmm.
and that's quite unique. That's the kind of that goes to both genders actually. That would go to both as well. I think
Yeah.
there's a sense of the generations below us specifically feeling like they have learned all they need to know, and under only very rare circumstances should they listen to anybody, or should they sit down to learn something.
And that's mostly because they've got a whole world in their hand or their pocket.
In their hand,
You know,
exactly.
they feel like they know everything. They've got TikTok and whatever, so they know everything now, don't they?
I know it all, man. I
So,
know it all.
what can you even show them? You know.
Exactly that.
So what do you think are the girls' insecurities then? If guys have got certain insecurities, what are the girls' insecurities?
I think a lot of girls' insecurities is about achievement and value. I think there's a warped sense of again, role modeling. A lot of role modeling is coming from social media
Yeah.
influencers now with girls, and I think a lot of girls aren't understanding the severity of editing that a lot of these photos are going up and that is having a massive impact on people's values. Like there are so many young girls that just don't. They're trying to achieve something that isn't making them happy because they think it's a social standard, and that what they're trying to achieve isn't
Mm.
even real, and that that's
Yeah.
that that's what they're insecure about. Like I say, like I work with, like, I've speak in schools and colleges, and when we get to like the sixth form age where they can wear their own clothes, you find a lot of young girls in school, especially because we've seen the weather good over the past couple of days. We've had a nice early spring this year.
Mm.
So you see
Mm.
a lot of girls wearing clothes that are not appropriate for the job that they're doing, but because it's fashionable. I don't understand why I'm seeing girls coming to construction classes or bricklaying classes in hot pants. That is, and then you're going to do practical activities. How is that going to work? Do you see? Like coming
Mm.
in sliders.
Yeah.
This is not like this is, it's not a catwalk. It's not a fashion show. Like, are you doing this to, who are you doing this for? Are you doing this for your peers? Or are you doing this to get an education? Because that's what I think. I think before everything else at the moment, young people value how they're going to be perceived because of social media, because of the risk that somebody may take a picture of them, and that picture is going to be memorized digitally for life, and they won't be happy with that image. And
Mm. Yeah.
man, what a shame. Like, to think that one image could be the reason why you are unhappy to just be yourself. And I think that's the biggest
It's,
issue. Girls are, they're very,
yeah.
there's, because it's still about the clique circle, is it? You rather be a part of a community in some sense. And at the moment, the community is to be trending, to have a certain look, to have a certain interest, whether that be in makeup or in hair, in wellness. Those are the interests. So if you're not in those fields again, you might be seen as an outcast. So if you're like, again, there's it's weird. I think it's strange. I think it's really difficult to know for young people to find, and again, the people that girls are looking to as role models may not be the best role model examples. They may be promoting the wrong kind of agendas, or characterizing the wrong
Mm.
kind of focus points. And that's the thing. Again, like, who's to say that one role model, the thing that they're teaching? So maybe you should have three or four, five or six role models, because then together they can challenge the opinions of each other to then ultimately achieve the utmost and best. And I think that's another
Mm.
thing. People aren't really willing to open to challenge anymore.
That's what I was about to say. I'd say the same thing you just said. Getting them to challenge each other and to really sort of like ask the questions, have critical questions. None, it's not there because
We're not there.
everybody has to follow. Everybody has to follow. It's following everybody, following each other.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, 100%. So that's it. Yeah, like I say, I would, to all the listeners, I give you a challenge. Next time you're sitting down with somebody 19 to 24, try and sit down and have a conversation with them and see how quickly they do two things. Say, I don't know, or leave.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
You'll be
yeah.
you'll be you'll
Or
be
leave
quite
me alone. They
surprised.
say leave me
Yeah,
alone.
they'll leave me alone.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and they'll
yeah,
just exit. You'll be quite
yeah, yeah,
surprised how small the
yeah.
tolerance is to have a conversation with somebody that age.
Mm-hmm.
You might not be able to
Mm.
say what they want to hear. That's what you'll be quite surprised.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So all right. So who was your main role models when you grew up then? So you had your sorry, when I say role models, I mean people who you kind of saw in the public eye. So not necessarily the small role models,
Oh, it's more,
as
yeah, yeah, yeah,
in,
but in like
not
a
to say
national
they're
perspective.
small,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but like, yeah. Who are your role models?
Do you know what? That's something I never really had any role models like that. I admired like the likes of Maurice Green and Dwayne Chambers, 100 meters runners back in the day. I was big in athletics, so I thought I kind of looked towards like from a role model. I looked like that was where I thought, okay, that was what the image of what I would have liked to have been with a skill set that I would have been proud of. So I guess that was what like yeah. So I would have looked at those kind of to say that I could have been like say as fit as that as sporting as that was what I was very much so looking to be. So that was what I kind of worked towards. But in truth, there weren't very many people like myself, like I say, nerdy units. Yeah, there
Mm,
weren't very many people where it was promoted, it was cool to be nerdy or, like you say, book smart, as well as
mm,
also maybe quite defensive or be able to defend themselves. That's only maybe more emerging now, but in the early 2000s, it wasn't like that. So again, another thing again, the past 10 or 15 years, we've seen such a change in media and the way that we access our media. Like when I was growing up, TV was the main thing. TV had a lot less diversity in terms of the options out there for role models. Whereas now we've got things like
mm,
streamers, we've got online platforms, we've got TV, you've got streaming platforms, you've got all sorts of content creators that so you can find a role model. You can. It's more
mm,
possible. You can find a role. But before you were more stuck within the pathway that was those five channels. And if you didn't have like if you didn't see what
mm,
you liked there, then that was that. That was that.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, I say outside of sport, where that was the only plan. And again, like I say, that again, the diversity wasn't there. That we wouldn't see, wasn't seeing the again, like those days. I still think main actors were like Samuel L. Jackson and Denzel Washington. Like they again, like those are the big names. Like
Mm,
they were still like
yeah.
again, we did
Denzel.
Denzel didn't we didn't see like we see like the Daniel Coolers. We don't see all of that now. Like the young guys, that's what like to say we've paved the way for more opportunities. But when I was growing up,
Mm,
those opportunities, I would say that we're unfortunately the last generation of of the opportunities where they weren't there, where those opportunities weren't there.
mm, yeah, yeah. Did you suffer any racism when you were younger? I've never really spoke about racism. I always just talk about mental health and the other
Mm-hmm.
complexities of it. But have you ever suffered any racism that had caused any mental health or caused any anger within you that you haven't really spoke about?
Mm,
It
no,
could be
yes
now
and
or
no.
then. It could be now or then.
Yeah, yes and no. I Yes and no. I never forget a issue. I worked with a gypsy traveling group, doing some youth work. Yeah, a younger man. We opened up the project to up to 24-year-olds, and like I said, I'm always open to working with every community. I've got no challenges, and I very much so opened up. We set up a work group for females from the GRT community. So we opened it up to an extended session where we had a mixed group, and one of the participants, he said to me, "Do you know what? That I will never forget this. This is my biggest like memory from youth work. Yeah, and one of the things why I say this is because it was the one where it was like you say, there's the everybody has got a tipping point, and I was very close at this stage to not being professional because this young man, when I was writing out, I wanted him to write down just suggestions of things that would improve the area. And this young man came and wrote over the work that the group of girls had done and the other guys that had been there. And he wrote KKK on the sheet of paper. And so I asked him,
Mm,
what's that about? Why would you do that? Why would you deface the work that your group, your peers have been working with? And he said, because I can't believe, yeah, that somebody like you, a darky like you, has the audacity to try and talk to our girls, and that for that fact alone,
Mm.
your mother should have died for giving birth to you. So that
Whoa.
that level, yeah, and like this kid was 20 at the time, so like 1920, so he was not a child in the legal terms of the law. So, and
Mm.
like the level of and the depth and complexity to the racism that was there, or the prejudice that was in his mind, and just to hear, like you say, to hear like where he went to, the generational levels there. And so, like I said, I
Mm.
hadn't used it, but like if I will always go back to like if you took what's the situation, what's a question or what's a comment that will always make you like, what was it? Well, it was that one, it was that situation, that instant,
Mm.
and
Mm.
that meant because it was then I also grew as a person because I had two choices there. I could have completely destroyed that young man, and I wouldn't be here having this podcast with you today, I'm sure. Or I could have supported him
Mm.
to understand that what he was doing was only going to help and lead him into a situation of crisis in the future. And through work, we did that. And I coached him through it. And that's what I say again, it's about the way you can communicate. Ultimately, this guy had never
Mm.
worked with a minority, an ethnic minority, in a way to understand that they would be able to provide any benefit to him. So if you've not communicated with somebody, you won't understand the benefit. So I've never seen
Mm.
racism like that in a way that I've not addressed. I've always run into it. Like I said, I'm a one man army, so I always run into racism. If I see it, I will address it. And ultimately, I don't run away from those who are racist and have those challenges. I try to help and work them to understand that there's two sides to every argument. So I guess that's kind
Mm.
of how I've had to see it and navigate it. But I've seen tons of prejudice in my time, from race to religion-based prejudice, um, and even today, age discrimination from the young people that are just not given a chance. So, like you say, like it's it, I, I just challenge. I just challenge, and I think that's one of the things. Like if people don't challenge enough, people need to challenge more. And I think that's what I've realized
Mm.
through having to shape my own definition and role and of a man by not having those role models there. I've realized that an actual man will go and address something so that the situation doesn't escalate to a stage where anybody is offended. Why does anybody need to be
Mm.
offended when we have such a wealth of words behind us to help us communicate? So,
Mm. Which is so underrated. That's so underrated what you just said. You know what I mean? That's a everyone thinks of a man as being but actually you can redefine what that is by
redefine that whole
using your
structure.
language,
Hmm.
communicate better,
Hmm.
refine the words that you use, and
Yeah,
and then reframe that language to something else and turn it into
yeah,
positive.
exactly.
Which is amazing. I don't want to keep you too much longer, but I've got a few more questions for you. So one of them is, um, what is your biggest fear?
My biggest fear, my biggest fear used to be the loss of my loved ones because I never used to think about it. And that would actually be a situation because it was too emotionally triggering or too concerning because you don't have an answer. You don't want to think about that. But then when I got past thinking about that, to know that there's still going to be a side on the other side, and to encourage to promote myself enjoying the time with those that I love and care for now, it is. I like I say, I don't have any fear. I don't. I try to live a life where I have no worry, stress, nor fear, because those things only prevent you from making the right decision or distract or blur you making a good conscious decision. If you remove worry, stress, and fear, then you see how your decisions change. So I don't have any fears, and there's nobody that'll know that. Maybe I've got a lot of things, but I'm not scared of anything. Even you see me from the work that we've done together. I'm not scared of anything. I'm not scared of anyone, nor anything, nor any situation, nor environment. That might be at my own detriment. That may be a flaw that is
Mm,
puts my own safety at risk. But I don't. I think that is also one of the skills that allow me to do the work that I do. Because if I had fear, I would not work with some of the people based that I've worked with because of the labels that they've attained, that they maybe rightly or wrongly have attained or been labeled with.
mm,
So yeah,
mm,
I try not to have too many fears, man. I try to I try to avoid fear where possible. Hesitation is the first step to death,
mm,
as I say. Hesitation is the first step to death. If you're gonna cross the road and you're gonna jaywalk across the road, walk across the road and go. Don't hesitate and you get hit by a bus, get hit by a car. Just go. If you're gonna do it, just go. Hesitation is the
mm.
first step to death.
Okay. All right. So, um, I was going to say, what three things then are you grateful for?
What three things am I grateful for? Good health, both physical health and mental health. Being able to be here in 2025. Um, what am I grateful for? The ability to communicate with a full able body. Like I say, to be able to be at this age in 2025 and having averted and dodged not only terror attacks but misfortunes, freak accidents is I'm grateful for that. I'm conscious of that because there's
Mm-hmm.
many people that didn't wake up
Mm-hmm.
today and there are many people that aren't going to wake up tomorrow. So I'm always conscious
Mm,
of that. And thirdly, what am I grateful for? Life, not just mine, but everybody's. Because through that life, we have an opportunity to grow and to heal and to help. And there are some things that come with life, like happiness, joy, love, that is beautiful. So I'm happy to have had the opportunity to experience life because we take for granted how easily we would not have been born or could not have been born. We fought a
mm,
big race to get here. So I'm grateful for.
mm, mm, mm. And what is your proudest? What's the thing you're most proudest of? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I saved a young girl a few years ago. I've saved many people's lives. I've fortunately, I guess, for the work that I've done, I've stopped a lot of people from committing suicide and getting into situations where they know they would have ultimately been received a fatality. And there's one girl in particular that I can remember working with who was 17 years old. Obviously for purposes of safeguarding. I can't disclose too much, but she was a victim of a sexual assault, and it was a very violent sexual assault, and to the stage where there was some FGM, female genital mutilation, and
Mm-hmm.
the way that she looked as a result, she didn't feel like anybody would ever love her. So she thought the best thing she could do would take her life. And I spoke to her on the day that she was planning to do it and got her to disclose that's what she was going to do and worked with her to the stage where she didn't. And we worked past that.
Mm,
And most people
mm,
would have just shrugged her off. And she truthfully came back to me and said that if it wasn't for myself, and we kept in touch, and yeah, she was always very grateful. And I truthfully believe it. I know for a fact that if I hadn't have been there that day and I hadn't have spent that time, she would have taken her own life because there were no options otherwise.
mm,
There was no ray of light or hope.
mm. No, well done.
So yeah, so that's probably my proudest moment. I'll always remember that one because I know for a fact. Thank you that I provided some questions that allowed her to see a reason to wake up tomorrow.
Yeah, and again, comes back to the same thing you were talking about, communication. It's all
Communication.
good, man. It's all good. Definitely.
Yeah, it's okay.
All right, so very quickly. So we've got a little group going on, and we posted a few videos. The last video that I posted, do you wanna talk about that video, and then you talk a little bit about um we'll talk a little bit about the video.
Yeah. That last video you posted, it's such an interesting point and some of the things that are discussed and raised there. And one of the main takeaways I think about is this idea of the a shift in gender roles and this idea that there is not enough pool of good men because of the way that and the definition of what a good man is, like somebody who's over 6 foot, somebody who's making in that top 10%, because there just isn't that percent. Like, so some of the things that are catching me is that in America, some of the stats, 14% of men are 6 foot plus. That's it, only 14%. So if you
Mm,
ignore everybody else, that's like these are massive points. These are massive considerations that you need to think about.
mm,
What is a healthy relationship? What are we looking for in a relationship? Because again, I think a lot of it is social media has had such an impact on the
mm.
image of things that
Oh yeah.
what are we saying in terms of yeah, what is something that does something for something, isn't it? Like everybody is
Mm,
unhappy, and everybody is seeking something else, and so few people are very happy with themselves and just with things as they are.
mm, mm.
You see?
It's very much like, how can I gain something better than what I've got? But yeah, I mean, the video itself reminds me of just like of some of the things that some of the things that young people are looking at how are they supposed to fit in these boxes that people have now created for them to fit into as they get older. You know what I mean?
Let me
Because
go
they're
and grab a
seeing all
card.
these social media stuff that we're seeing. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I can imagine that's probably part of the reason why they're saying they don't know, because they can't figure it out. Because a lot of the stuff that's on there is, is crazy and
It's on
not
the
great.
internet. Yeah,
You know what I'm
exactly.
saying?
Exactly.
So I don't know, man. But yeah, this video. I'm trying to remember what the video was about again. Now I sent it to ages ago, didn't I?
But yeah, this one it was about the imbalance of men, men and women gender roles. Men and women gender roles.
Oh yes, yeah. It was yeah, and the second one was like the woman wanted to leave the man. Remember, the woman wanted to leave the man because
The woman wanted to
um
leave the man.
yeah, yeah, because what was it? Because she wanted to ask him if she could have a
If
side
she would,
piece. That's what
if
it
she, a
was.
side piece, yeah. If she's 15-year relationship, and is it okay to have a side piece? She's had a side
To
piece for
ask my
15 years,
husband,
honestly.
to ask
So
my
I asked my
husband.
husband if I can,
Mm-hmm,
like, if this guy can continue. Um, like I say, the retort was what got me really. It was the sister's reply that
mm,
really just broke down how the language of what she was asking was just an absolute betrayal, and not to misconceive the manipulation. I thought that was, again, because I thought her
mm-hmm,
ability to navigate language was brilliant. It was a brilliant example because it's true.
mm,
Like, convince is not convince, it is manipulate. Because why would a man,
mm,
why would your husband be happy to not only find out that your wife has had a side piece for 15 years, but to
mm,
accept that? Like you say, she said, like, he has been providing all this time and role modeling to the kids or wherever else, and she is just out here. Like, it's that point, like, the language of what she was. Oh, let's really break that down. You made you took a pact. There were a pact. There was a bond there, like, from not only from a societal, like, agreement, to like, say, the
mm,
spiritual aspect she went down to. It was, in terms of
mm,
encompassing the spirit and vibe of the emotion of the person that you're cohabiting with, and then the impact that has subconsciously to your relationship. Like I say, that is like, that's the comment. That's the comment. That's what I'm saying.
mm,
People are not
mm,
comfortable getting uncomfortable, and that lady was uncomfortable, was made to be uncomfortable through her own actions. And I think that's it. The same way the old Mike Tyson, since social media, people are afraid to get punched in the face. Yeah, they don't know what, like, it's true. People don't want to, but we're forgetting some of these things. People forget, like I say, you see lots, so many, the rise of pranks. You see so many pranks, and forgetting that there is a consequence to things. Nobody thinks about the consequence to anything anymore at all.
mm,
And
mm,
that's what she so masterfully broke down in a small period of time. Because
mm,
the question was, could have been easily, like I said, I think the other hosts, the male hosts,
mm,
facilitators, didn't even pick up on it, or they made jokes. But the way that the
mm.
female broke down the female argument there was quite interesting.
Let me see if I can get it to play. Cause let
Yeah,
me see if I can
yeah.
get it to play. I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna try this thing now. All right. Let me hold on. I'm gonna. Can you hear it?
No,
Let's
I
see.
can't.
Can you hear that? You can't hear it. Okay. Okay. All right. Let me share the screen and see if we can get this going on. Hold on. This is gonna be interesting.
Yeah,
All
share
right. Let's
screen.
go screen. Yeah. Open. This is settings. Let's go. Hmm. Yeah. All right. This is the first time doing this, people. So if it doesn't work, then I'm really sorry. I may not be able to record content. So yeah, man, I don't think it's gonna let me.
Oh, is it?
Oh
Okay.
man, saying it has to close. Has to close the setting.
The settings
That's a
there. No,
shame. But yeah. It's a really, really good clip as well. Like, I'm gonna choose to share screen. Hold on, cancel this. Let me see if I can get this thing going on. Let me see if I can share my screen anyway. Okay, so let me do it. Let's see if it'll do it. Share that.
There you go.
Can you see anything? What can you
I
see?
can see it now. Yeah, I can see
Can you
it.
see it?
I can see it. Yeah, yeah. You can't
Right,
make this
okay,
stuff
okay.
up
Let's play
here.
this. All right. All right. Can you hear it?
Can't hear anything.
Oh,
Can't
oh
hear it.
man. Media. Oh man. This video is so amazing.
Yeah, it's really so amazing.
Oh, if I can get this going, this would be so good. I don't know if I can get it going.
You have to come back to this one another day. Maybe even perhaps.
Yeah, definitely, yeah,
Because
definitely.
this is a whole
Yeah,
conversation in
definitely. All
itself.
right.
In effect, this is a. There's so much here.
I'm
There's so
telling
much
you.
here. There's so much here. There's so much.
I'm telling you. But we're gonna come back to this. We're gonna come back to this.
We're gonna come back to this one. Yeah.
All right. So let me give some fire. We're gonna do a fire round question set. Okay.
Questionnaires.
Then we're
Yeah,
gonna
cool.
finish off. All right. Yeah. All right. So fire question. Okay. Chicken or pork?
Chicken. Don't eat pork. Haram, man. Not good for you.
Okay. Um, blue or red?
Blue. Neutral. Red. Anger. Low vibration.
Um, grime or drill?
Grime. The true originator.
Hip hop or drill?
Hip hop.
Okay. R&B or reggae?
Reggae.
Okay. Night or day?
Night owl, man. Unfortunately. Nighttime.
Yeah,
All
like me.
times. Yeah.
Woo.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, weekend or the working week?
We can. Even though it's short.
Yeah. Um, uh, really rich or just okay?
Just okay. It's cool, man. Not greedy.
Yeah, that's good. Um, and the last one, drama therapy or work with young offenders.
Probably drama therapy, I'd say, unfortunately. Truthfully, because the landscape for working with young offenders in this country is very, very difficult. I don't know how much future there is in it, in the current landscape. But there's always going to be a role for drama therapy,
Right.
unfortunately.
Yeah. Um, and you know when you're drama therapy, what's the best part of it?
The end result, when somebody doesn't believe, especially if somebody is dyslexic or they're dyscalculia, they're not IT literate, they're neurodivergent, or they're on the spectrum in some way, and they're helped to achieve a job role, apprenticeship, they're helped to move out and live independently, they achieve a qualification. Especially when their family may have written them off, or their teachers wrote them off, they were expelled from school, or they were young carers so they didn't get a fair and equal chance, or their parents were victims of crime or substance misusers or perpetrators of crimes. Helping that person who otherwise would have been written off or would have thought they could not achieve something to achieve even just a small thing like paying a utility bill on time is is one of is the great thing there, because if you had to do that with other things, like some things like you see psychology, or more intensive therapies like the CBTs, in ways that they push people away.
Mm,
Some people don't
mm,
necessarily like certain talking therapies. So the adaptability of drama therapy for me to be the the scapegoat, the joker, in a sense, I'm more than happy to play the victim, the perpetrator, role play that scenario, so that that person doesn't have to put themselves in
mm,
that difficult position or take a label they wouldn't feel comfortable with. That then allows them to think outside of the box. Whereas if I ask them to think about being homeless, they might think, "Oh, I can't engage in that." Whereas if I say, "What would you do for me if I'm homeless? What would be my advice?" That's slightly different. So again, the creativity to support outside of the box thinking is definitely one of my is why is the big plus for drama therapy. And then seeing that, just like I said, achieve simple, what we would class as simple, but for some people are massive goals.
mm.
Are is again,
Mm,
not taking those things for granted.
mm. No, that's amazing. That's amazing, amazing. All right. We're gonna call it there, right? That's a really, 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 really good interview. Turned into an interview for you, but it was gonna be a conversation for a couple of us.
Yeah,
Next
yeah.
week we're gonna. I think some of the people will be back next week, so hopefully it will be four of us at least next week. Will you be here next week? And next week's the third
Yeah,
one.
yeah,
The
yeah. I
third
can make
one.
up. Yeah, I can. Yeah, I can make it next week.
Okay, cool, cool, cool. All right, that's cool. So listen, I'd like to thank you so much, Kadeem. You're a great, great, great person and a definite lifesaver right now. We're gonna definitely do some more these podcasts and more business stuff as well together, which is gonna be great.
Yeah.
And yeah. So guys, listen, I hope you liked the interview. I hope you like what you heard. I'm sorry that we couldn't share the screen, but we'll come back to that. I'll try
Come
and
back.
figure it out somehow. Um, yeah, definitely, definitely, definitely. And Listen, guys, share, like, subscribe, comment at the bottom. Let me know if you liked the interview, what you didn't like about the interview, or were there any talking points that really, got you guys talking or thinking about where you are, or if you've got kids, about how you communicate with your kids. Communication is everything, when we talk about mental health, it often stems from the lack of communication, lack of being able to express yourself. So, or finding different ways of expressing yourself. Um, so listen, thanks so much. And it's the GM, the life coach, and I'm out. Bye. GM, the life coach.